You are playing a game you do not realize you are in, using a set of rules that ensures your eventual defeat. From childhood, you were taught that the world operates on a meritocracy, that if you work hard, speak the absolute truth, and treat others with transparent sincerity, the system will naturally reward your integrity. This is a lie. It is a highly engineered cultural narrative designed to keep your behavior entirely predictable, manageable, and compliant. Psychology calls this cognitive blind spot naive realism, the mistaken belief that everyone perceives reality objectively and operates with the same baseline of honesty that you do. But the evolutionary reality of human social dynamics is vastly more calculated. The human brain did not develop its massive neocortex to solve abstract mathematical equations or contemplate philosophy. It developed it to navigate the treacherous, highly competitive landscape of tribal politics. In evolutionary biology, this is known as the Machiavellian intelligence hypothesis. It proves that our cognitive expansion was driven by an evolutionary arms race of social manipulation, strategic deception, and alliance building. The people who dominate modern structures, corporate boardrooms, political systems, and high-stakes social hierarchies are not playing by the rules of sincerity. They are playing by the rules of asymmetric power. Your refusal to acknowledge the game does not make you moral. It simply makes you a target. The hidden psychological problem. To understand the architecture of this social matrix, we must look at how your brain is systematically exploited when you operate with absolute transparency. When you reveal your true intentions, your vulnerabilities, and your long-term strategies to the world, you are suffering from a psychological phenomenon known as the illusion of asymmetry. You assume that because your internal state is clear to you, others are viewing you with equal clarity and goodwill. What you are actually doing is handing your competitors a complete psychological map of your mind. The human nervous system is inherently wired to look for vulnerabilities in others to determine social hierarchy. When you expose your raw ambitions or your deepest insecurities in a professional or social setting, you are not building deep trust. You are lowering the transactional cost for others to bypass or manipulate you. Robert Greene famously codified this in the 48 Laws of Power, specifically through the absolute mandate to conceal your intentions. The moment your environment knows exactly what you want, your actions become mathematically predictable. Predictability is the death of personal sovereignty. If a competitor can predict your next move, they can easily engineering a scenario that forces you into compliance. Part 2. The Neurology of Deception and the Currency of Status. To successfully navigate this landscape, we must examine the specific neurological networks that govern strategic social navigation. The brain contains a specialized, highly sophisticated network known as the theory of mind network, located primarily in the medial prefrontal cortex and the temporoparietal junction. This circuit allows you to simulate the internal mental states, beliefs, desires, and hidden motivations of the people around you. It is a biological simulator designed to predict human behavior before it happens. You miss the micro-expressions of envy, the strategic positioning of alliances during a routine meeting, and the subtle conversational shifts used to undermine your authority. You are playing checkers while the architecture around you is executing a grand master chess strategy. This cognitive blindness creates an agonizing psychological phenomenon known as structural gaslighting. When a highly intelligent, sincere individual is consistently bypassed for promotions, excluded from elite circles, or undermined by less technically competent colleagues, they face a profound internal crisis. By displaying their superior intelligence too aggressively or transparently, they triggered the threat response systems in their superior's amygdala, causing those leaders to view the ambitious individual not as an asset, but as an existential threat that must be quietly neutralized. The scarcity of absence. The modern social architecture is masterful at exploiting your natural urge for constant connection and approval. We are conditioned by digital algorithms and cultural expectations to be permanently available, highly responsive, and endlessly communicative. But from the perspective of power psychology, constant presence is a catastrophic error. It triggers the economic principle of marginal utility within the minds of others. The more an asset is available, the less value it commands. When you are always accessible, always ready to reply to a message within seconds, and always present at every low-value social gathering, your presence loses its psychological weight. You become a psychological commodity. To override this, you must master what Greene defines as the law of strategic absence. Use absence to increase respect and honor. By creating a strategic vacuum through your absence, you trigger the scarcity heuristic within their cognitive architecture. They begin to attribute a higher status to your time, your thoughts, and your presence simply because they are rare. Sincerity tells you to be always available to prove your loyalty. Strategy tells you that true authority is forged in the space you leave behind. Part 3. The Strategic Override and the Blueprint for Sovereignty. Breaking out of the naive realism trap requires a cold, clinical implementation of what we call strategic opacity. You must completely decouple your internal emotional reality from your external behavioral execution. This is not about becoming a malicious, toxic manipulator. It is about building an unbreachable psychological fortress that protects your autonomy. The first phase of this reconditioning demands that you master the art of asymmetric information management. When entering any professional or social setting, you must establish a permanent boundary around your primary ambitions, your financial data, and your true emotional assessments. You practice the foundational Machiavellian rule: always say less than necessary. By deliberately restricting the volume of your words, you prevent your environment from building an accurate predictive model of your mind. The less they can map you, the more authority you command over the narrative. Cultivating formlessness. The second pillar of the blueprint requires the total eradication of your psychological rigidity. Most people construct a rigid, unyielding identity. They define themselves as a specific type of person who always acts in a specific, predictable way. While this makes you feel stable, it makes you incredibly easy for institutional and social systems to manage. You become a fixed target. To achieve true cognitive dominance, you must internalize the final law of power. Assume formlessness. You must train your nervous system to remain completely neutral, fluid, and adaptable to changing environmental pressures. When a system or an individual attempts to provoke you through criticism, passive-aggressive maneuvers, or manufactured conflict, your default mode network must remain entirely silent. Instead, you view the provocation as raw data. You adapt your public persona to absorb the impact smoothly, while your internal analytical mind calculates the most efficient, structural countermove. You become like water, impossible to grasp, impossible to strike, yet fully capable of eroding the strongest structures over time. Conclusion: the real game. The world around you is not a peaceful sanctuary of transparent merit. It is a complex, hyper-competitive matrix of hidden incentives and calculated power dynamics. Sincerity is a beautiful virtue inside a secure inner circle of proven allies, but when applied blindly to the competitive structures of modern society, it is nothing less than tactical suicide. You can continue to play the game with the naive rules you were taught as a child, wondering why your brilliant intellect continues to leave you isolated, bypassed, and average. Or you can accept the evolutionary reality of the human mind, master the laws of strategic psychology, and use your intelligence to build a life of absolute, uncompromised sovereignty. The matrix is moving around you every single day. The choice to become a master of the board, or remain a pawn on it,